25,000 people live in Nzako, south of the Central African Republic. In 2011, the Lord Resistance Army, led by Joseph Kony, attacked the village for the first time. Mohamed Ganda is the community leader of Nzako.
This here is the marketplace where the Lord's Resistance Army came and pillaged everything. The LRA took all the food supplies with them. They took our women, our children. They killed many people here in Nzako. They came from afar. We didn't know what they wanted. They're bandits, worse than bandits. Here, we're in the former FACA military base, the Central African Armed Forces. This is where the LRA came and killed Central African soldiers in 2011, 2012, and 2013. I came myself to fetch the bodies of these soldiers. But now this is where the Ugandan forces are based. If the Ugandan forces leave Nzako, we will also have to leave, like other villages in this area. So many people have had no other choice but to leave their villages.
It's the Ugandan army, on behalf of the regional task force set up in 2012, that protects Nzako, because the LRA is no longer in Uganda. For the past few years, they travel through South Sudan, DRC, and CAR, where state authority is almost non-existent, or wherever they find support. In Central African Republic, they collaborated with the Seleka. At the HQ of the African Union Regional Task Force in Yambio, South Sudan, senior officers confirmed that today the Central African Republic National Army does not have the means to track the rebel group.
I'm grateful for what the Ugandan army is doing in my country. The Central African Army lacks logistical means because of the difficult situation in our capital city, Bongi. So it's indeed the Ugandans who've been putting pressure on the LRA with support from the Americans, who provide air transport and intelligence.
Today, the LRA has become very weak, even without regional forces deploying all of its contingents. South Sudan, for example, mobilized 100 to 500 soldiers instead of 1,000. But the rebel group does not operate in the country anymore. They hide in DRC and CAR.
We've been reducing their strength. That is by killing some of them and capturing some of them, to the level of killing number 2 in the hierarchy of their leadership, and so many other top commanders. And some of the top commanders also have defected.
As part of the strategy to weaken the rebel group, members are encouraged to defect. Many prisoners that were made slaves or soldiers by the LRA were also freed regularly by regional forces. Many worry, though, because Uganda is thinking of pulling out. And in a forest the size of France, it's hard to approach or even sight ultra-mobile groups that change locations on a daily basis. Even if the LRA is now in survival mode, the priority is to provide security to villages, like here in Obo.
In case we go away, I can assure you Joseph Kony would be in a position to abduct, and again he would go back to square zero, because these communities are vulnerable.
Gaetan spent 1 year in captivity. He still suffers from the trauma.
That's a combat knife, in case the LRA shows up. The night of March 5, 2008, there were more than 300 heavily armed soldiers, and they kidnapped more than 200 people. It's not over. The LRA is still a problem. Just recently, they kidnapped some villagers who had ventured out in the bush. They had gone hunting. We're not supposed to go any farther than 5 kilometers. We can't even farm beyond that limit.
We met Tatiana, who was 16 years old, 5 of which were spent in captivity.
She's saying that she was forced to walk every day, non-stop. And if you were tired, you were beaten with a machete.
Then there was a sexual abuse.
Yes, she says that's where she had her child.
Tatiana ran away during an operation by the Ugandan army, her son on her back. There are about 20 LRA-born children living in Obo today. Even if the rebel group is eliminated for good, its mark of terror will remain intact in the village, just like in all of Eastern Africa.